Hello there. Finally, you join me in a country where I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation of every single word because, yes, that's right, parlo un po' di italiano. E con questo intendo che posso ordinare un bicchiere di vino rosso, per favore. E questo è tutto. Anyway, we're here in the tiny village of Seborga in the region of Liguria, nestled in the foothills of the Alps and overlooking the gorgeous Italian Riviera below. We're in like literally the most extreme western corner of Italy. We're only about 8 miles from the French border. It is an exceptionally pretty village, as you can probably see, but don't just take my word for it. It is actually officially one of I borghi più belli d'Italia, which means one of the most beautiful villages in Italy. It's an official designation. So it is extra pretty. I mean, there are 361 villages listed under that title, so it's not like the most exclusive thing ever, but it's pretty. That's the moral of the story. It's got a population of just 315 people, all squished into this one tiny hilltop, which contains everything you could ask for in a tiny Italian village. There's a piazza, there's a trattoria, there's a 17th century church, and there are views of the rolling hills and the gorgeous Riviera coastline. Many of the town's residents speak not just Ligurian, which is a separate language to Italian no matter what the fat cats in Rome tell you, but Intermeglio, which is a distinct dialect of Ligurian. And this sort of isolated, unique cultural identity should be an ample scene setter for what comes next. While many villages across Italy would probably have loved to have been included in the Borghi più belli d'Italia, the residents of this town were probably cursing it because to many people in Seborga, Seborga is not part of Italy. Yep, this small village in the Italian Alps in 1963 declared itself independent from Italy, claiming to never have been part of the Italian Republic. It has its own government, its own royal family, its own currency and coinage to go with it, and it even has a border checkpoint. It calls itself the Principality of Seborga. Technically, it has its own laws, though we'll get to the mechanics of that later. But what's going on? How did we get here? Well, bear with me here because we need a sort of history lesson. As the locals will tell you, there's a very detailed historical case to be made for Seborga's independence from Italy. However, as many actual historians will respond, a lot of that historical case is up for debate. It's not completely illegitimate or incorrect, it just relies on a couple of unique interpretations of medieval law based on documents with either questionable authenticity or with significant details omitted. Now, I'm not here to poke fun at any of Seborga's claims, nor disrespect its residents. I just thought I'd put that caveat out there in case you listen to the next couple of paragraphs of voiceover and go, where on earth did this guy get his history degree? Well, joke's on you, because I actually have a music degree, so you know you can trust me with medieval Italian history. According to the official website of the Principality of Seborga, the year is 954 AD. I mean, not like that, I'm just setting the scene, they're not that bad at history. So yes, 954. The village of Seborga has, in some form or another, been sat on this little hilltop overlooking the Tyrrhenian Sea since perhaps the 5th century BC. The territory of Seborga falls within the county of Ventimiglia, which has recently separated from the March of Tuscany, a separate state in what is now, well, Tuscany. Now, the story on Seborga's official website goes that in April of 954, Count Guidone of Ventimiglia, who I honestly struggled to find much info about, donated the territory of Seborga to the Lérins Abbey on the Lérins Islands just off the coast of Cannes in modern-day France. This was so he could leave to go help his buddy William the Liberator, Count of Provence, kick the Saracens, or basically the Roman word for people from the Middle East, out of Provence. Now, William the Liberator was a real man, so good job there. We're off to a good start. However, there's one big problem, and that's that in the year 954, William the Liberator would have been 4 years old. Now, as the father of a 4-year-old, they can do very impressive things. Mine can calculate 9 plus 9 pretty well, which is, that's pretty impressive. But I don't think fending off a 1,000-strong horde of invading soldiers from the Middle East is quite in his wheelhouse yet. I don't know, maybe my standards are just too low. William the Liberator did indeed kick the Saracens out of Provence, but it wasn't until the 980s, so something's gone wrong with the timeline there. Either way, the website's claims that Seborga was donated to the Lérins Abbey in 954 is a point of contention in itself, with some dispute arising between historians over the authenticity of some medieval documents that purport to show the donation. But historians do generally agree that Seborga was indeed under the control of the monks at Lérins in the 10th and 11th centuries, as later documents showed. So that's an early tick in the Seborga independence column, and has afforded Seborga to claim that it was an independent state during the Holy Roman Empire, and thus lays the groundwork for the rest of the modern independence movement. If you're wondering whether or not this interpretation of Seborga's statehood is correct, put a pin in that thought. We will be coming back to it later. If we go with what the Seborgans say, on the 30th of January 1729, a deed was signed which handed control of the little microstate of Seborga over to the King of Sardinia, meaning it would become part of the Kingdom of Sardinia. Now, this is where everything gets a bit weird. According to Seborga, the sale of the little microstate to the King of Sardinia was never formally ratified and thus remains invalid to this day. Because the sale was never confirmed, Seborgans say, the territory thus retained its previously held independent status, meaning it should have been included in all future treaties and agreements surrounding the merging or splitting of countries over the following centuries, of which there was a lot. For example, supporters of independence claim that due to it never officially being ratified as part of the Kingdom of Sardinia, that means that at the 1815 Congress of Vienna, which redrew the boundaries of Europe after the Napoleonic Wars and folded the rest of Liguria, in which Seborga resides, into the Kingdom of Sardinia, it didn't get a mention, when it should have done because it was an independent entity. And then it also didn't get a mention in the Risorgimento, the creation of the Kingdom of Italy in 1861, when most of the Italian peninsula was united under the House of Savoy. And thus, do you think it also got a mention in 1946 when the Italian Republic was created in its current state? I'll give you a hint. No, it didn't. I have a feeling that some of you might be watching this thinking, oh, this is all just sort of semantics and nonsense, and it's no real reason to declare what would be the third smallest country in the world. But I also reckon that a couple of you are thinking, did they have a point here? Well, wait until I tell you that historians actually sort of side with the separatists regarding the 1729 sale of Seborga to Sardinia. They don't just posit that the sale was never ratified, but that it actually never took place at all. And surely this means that Seborga remained independent in 1729, just like the official website claims. Well, no. Seborga's initial claim of independence, on which all of this is based, rests on the idea that in 1079, the abbot of Lerins, the monastery that controlled Seborga at the time, was supposedly granted the title of Prince Abbot of Seborga, thus making Seborga a principality, an abbatial principality to be specific. However, this is where a lot of it falls apart. According to experts, there's no solid historical evidence that any abbot at Lerins ever held this title within the Holy Roman Empire. And even if they did, that wouldn't necessarily confer imperial immediacy onto Seborga itself, a status that allows them to govern themselves and report directly to the emperor, rather than going via a regional prince or ruler. Unfortunately for Seborga, the HRE was remarkably good at keeping records of both its abbatial principalities and its imperial immediacy states, and of the dozens listed across the centuries in both categories, Seborga was never mentioned. But has this deterred the people of Seborga? You're damn right it hasn't. And in 1963, a local flower farmer called Giorgio Carboni decided to go for a little deep dive into the town's history, just for fun, and he wound up falling down the rabbit hole of documentation that I've just outlined above. All these theories, all this historical interpretation, it all comes from him. And in August of 1963, he held a referendum in the town on whether or not to declare independence. Somehow, presumably after listening to this guy rattle off centuries of medieval Italian history, which culminated in him telling them that they're not Italian anymore, the townspeople went with it. And they unanimously voted to declare their little state independent from the rest of Italy. And this guy was elected prince. And I know the idea of electing a monarchy is weird, but this whole thing is weird, so just go with it. And he was given the title Sua Tremendità Giorgio I Principe di Seborga, or His Tremendousness Giorgio I, Prince of Seborga. You might be familiar with some other micronations, some of which were formed as a joke, like Danny Wallace's Kingdom of Lovely, others as a protest, like Sealand, and others basically in name only, like Bir Tawil. But His Tremendousness took the newly declared independence of Seborga extremely seriously, and the remnants of the prince's legacy are visible literally all over this town to this day. It has a capital city, which is obviously just Seborga, because that's the only town here. They have a border guard, though he's not here right now. Apparently he only worked in the summer. They have a flag. They have their own stamps. As I said earlier, they also minted their own currency for a number of years, called the Luigino, something that I believe the Italian government asked them to stop doing. They have passports, they have their own license plates, they have a welcome sign, which is strangely in English, French and Italian, but not Ligurian. They have an army, I think of like 5 people, They have a shadow government and, as mentioned earlier, a monarchy, complete with all sorts of titles and regalia. Of the many self-declared independent microstates, Seborga is one of the most fully fleshed out. And in 1995, things got more serious, with the town voting 300-4 to ratify a new constitution that declared Giorgio prince for life and introduced an actual charter of laws that obviously have no actual legal backing, as I'm not sure the Italian government would like that. I would list off what the laws were now, but they're not like sort of quirky, like, isn't that funny laws? It's just really basic stuff that is also law in Italy. So that kind of lends credence to the whole idea that they're taking this project quite seriously. There's nothing in there that's like, you have to wear a pineapple on your head every Tuesday or whatever. Unfortunately, Giorgio died in 2009 at the age of
73.
And to be sort of more sincere for a second, the veracity of his claims aside, Giorgio seemed like a genuinely quite cool guy who everyone in the town absolutely loved. So whether or not his claims to independence were legit, he's a solid dude. Rest easy, king. Through a vote, Giorgio was succeeded as prince by Marcello Menegatto in 2010, taking the title of Marcello I. He was re-elected in 2017 before stepping down, with his wife Nina Menegatto taking the throne in 2019, actually beating Giorgio's own daughter in a vote. So Princess Nina is currently the head of state of Seborga. And speaking as a Brit, like every other monarch in Europe, no matter which bloody country they rule over, she is German. Her Serene Highness the Princess Nina of Seborga, originally hailing from Kempten in Germany, previously served as the head of foreign affairs for the principality for years, and has been pretty active in foreign media since arriving in the town back in the early 2000s. However, as outsider knowledge of Seborga has grown over the years, so too has the drama. This is where things get really weird. A sentence I wish I wasn't saying 3,000 words into this script. In 2006, a woman calling herself... oh god... Princess Yasmin von Hohenstauern-Anjou-Plantagenet claimed that she was the rightful heir to the throne of Seborga, and apparently contacted the Italian government to try to return the territory back to the Italian Republic. Like, what a buzzkill, what a lame thing to do. That went nowhere, but in 2016, while Marcello and Nina were out of the country, Nicolas Mutter, an extremely mysterious Frenchman who keeps a very low profile, apparently declared himself prince. He launched his own website with his own revised version of Seborga's history, claiming that it's actually called the Principality of Seborg, and honestly, it's just such a sort of, actually thing to do.
Editing Gabe here. Yes, I know my voice sounds terrible, but I have to get this video live in 48 hours, or less than 48 hours, and I don't have time to recover from this cold before then, so we're going to have to go with it. Basically, what I just said is not 100% right. In 2016, Nicolas Mutter began claiming that he was the rightful owner of Seborga, and he set up a number of websites under the title the Principauté de Seborga. However, on the Principauté de Seborg website, he's not mentioned anywhere, so I spoke to Seborga directly and said, like, who is Nicolas Mutter? Why is he not mentioned on this website? Does this have anything to do with him? And they actually emailed me back within about 10 minutes saying that the web domains that Nicolas Mutter set up to make his claim, he just let them expire mostly, and the other ones were acquired by Seborga official to avoid further confusion and redirect to the proper Seborga website. This website, the Principauté de Seborg, is apparently not related to Mutter, and it's another fringe group who have taken Nicolas Mutter's idea and run with it. As a spokesperson for Seborga told me, this particular group is tied to a different self-styled claimant named Gianluca De Lucia, who emerged more recently. He presents himself as an Orthodox abbot and asserts, without any legitimacy, that he is Prince of Seborga. Another crazy man. So this website is actually not set up by Nicolas Mutter, but a different group. Either way, they kind of suck.
So here we are today. Currently, and somewhat predictably, the Italian government does not recognise Seborga as independent and doesn't look like it will anytime soon. Instead, Rome recognises the town as a comune, or commune of imperia. But the visibility and recognition of Seborga looks set only to grow. For a start, the town's tourism income is already pretty substantial, though agriculture is still number one. But apparently a big hotel is going to be built here too. Furthermore, a film is also in the works about the creation of Seborga called Cooking Up a Country. Whether or not the town of Seborga is ever granted formal independence by Rome is by the by, really. The Seborgans, or more specifically Giorgio, have created their own unique, intricate history that skirts the line between folklore and historical fact, and Giorgio appeared to sincerely believe in his cause, far more so than the creators of other, less serious microstate claims. And even if it never separates from Italy, Seborga is now on the map. I mean, would you or I ever have heard of it if it weren't for Giorgio diving down an administrative rabbit hole back in 1963? Probably not. And instead, now I'm here making a video about it. So, good luck, Seborga. That's about it. So that's about it from Seborga. As you can see, it's very pretty. So I would say that you should come here, but I would also say don't. Because I've been here for 20 minutes and two separate old men on other sides of the town from each other shouted vaffanculo at me as I walked past with my camera. I mean, I didn't think that doing that was particularly offensive. Oh, if you can't speak Italian, vaffanculo is... yeah, it's fuck you. So yeah, that was a surprise. There's part of me that wants to change this video title to like the rudest town in Italy. Although it's not in Italy, is it? But I can't say the rudest town in Seborga because it's the only town in Seborga. It doesn't matter. But yeah, come here maybe if you want to get sworn at for some reason. But yeah, no, it's nice enough. And you know, I am an annoying tourist after all. So I got to fly back to England now. So bye.